On today's episode, I cover the best budget center midfield whole style player that money can buy. Stay tuned. Okay guys, let's get right into it. So whole style players in the center midfield position, for me, are a little tricky. They usually don't offer any defensive capabilities because a whole style player, their goal is to run forward into the attacking third, create mismatches, create chaos, and really create an extra point within your attack that can't really be marked because they're bursting through and they're creating a run. So when you look at a whole style player, when they're in the center midfield, I think this is a little tricky because one, it creates a stamina issue because they're constantly bursting forward, and if you lose the ball they have to track all the way back and then burst forward again. And secondly, whole style players really aren't built to defend at all, and for the most part they're not very physical, which poses a challenge as most center midfield positions have some level of physicality to them. So with that being said, I did find a player that I think is pretty good for under the 5 million price tag, which is where I consider them to be a budget player. I found a guy called Agudelo. He's 75 overall. His natural position is attacking midfielder, but of course we're going to play him in center midfield, which he can play. He's from Colombia. He's 22 years old, so there's going to be some room for growth, and he's got no inspire skills. So let's talk about his abilities. 71 offensive awareness, not great, but he's got really good ball control at 80, really good dribbling at 79, 81 tight possession, 75 low pass. So as a midfielder, on the technical side, he's pretty solid. He's got 77 speed, 79 acceleration. This is actually pretty good at the budget level for a whole player. And then he's got 78 kicking power. So this is where we have a good benefit because it means as a whole player, he's going to be bursting through, and 78 kicking power is going to give him that ability to shoot from range. He has 75 bounce, which means he's decent on the ball and he's not going to get pushed off super easy. And then 75 stamina, which isn't great, especially with his play style. So he's going to get tired out at some point in the game, probably around minute 60 or minute 70. And you're going to see this from pretty much any whole style player. Even if they had 95 stamina, they're not going to last the whole game because of their play style. So at some point, they're going to be totally gassed. All right, so let's take a look at his other abilities. He's got 76 aggression, which is actually really good for a whole style player, especially in the center midfield, because it means they can chase down players and at least use their body to give them a good bump, even though you can't viably use these guys to defend. But he's got a weak foot of 2, which isn't great, but it looks like you could train it up fairly easily. Conditioning of 5, which is okay. It means for the most part, you're going to get him at or above his skill level, and an injury resistance of 3, which is really good. It means he's always going to be available to play, pretty much. He's got a height of 178 centimeters, so he's not really tall, not really short, very medium when it comes to height, and his body weight means he's pretty slight, but the mechanics in game actually make him feel pretty stocky. So he feels really good. Lastly, he's right-footed, and that's going to be important until you train up his weak foot. So as we move into skills, it's interesting because as a whole player, these aren't skills that I would select ideally. Double touch, I don't really use skills, so that doesn't matter to me. Same with step on ball control, but he's got track back, which is both good and bad for a whole style player because track back means he's going to be able to run and catch up with people that have the ball that have beaten him. And so it gives an ability to have some level of defense. And then he's got fighting spirit, which is actually really, really good because this whole time I've been ragging on the whole player style in center midfield because they give me a ton of stamina nightmares. But fighting spirit means that even when he's low in stamina, you're going to get a good performance from him. So it's less of a concern, but I still think it's a little bit of a concern on general viability for whole style players in center midfield. When we take a look at team role, there's nothing there, so we'll move on. And what's kind of nice about this guy is as we get into his development sheet, you'll see there's a lot of room for improvement here. You could potentially get this player up into the 80s if you get some training amplification through other team role players. So there's definitely ability for this guy to be able to at least play in the upper leagues and have some level of contribution. In the lower leagues, of course, which is primarily what these reviews are about, when you don't have a lot of money, a guy like this is going to make an impact in the lower leagues for sure. All right, so as we get into the gameplay, what you'll notice is, honestly, he plays on the ball like he is a creative playmaker. And why I say that is he's got a really good weight on the ball, and usually you see that weight when you controlling a player in creative playmakers. They feel really assured on the ball. You can move it from side to side. You can beat your man. And I felt like that was one of the big differences about him as a player. He kind of felt like a creative playmaker in his ability to control the ball, but then he had that whole style which allowed him to consistently create these burst through opportunities and push forward into the attacking third. That paired with his high kicking power relatively at 78 gives him this really good ability to be on the ball, do a 1-2, burst through fairly quickly, get on the end of that ball, and instantly you create a threat or release a shot. And you'll see a lot of that is really how I was using him, and I think where you're going to see success from a player like this. Outside of that, there are a couple examples of him backtracking, being able to chase down someone, give them a little bit of shoulder bump. Nothing really special though, have no expectations there. But I do think he was fairly dangerous, especially with some of the better teams. He was able to do the same things he was doing with some of the less skilled teams. And that consistency is actually really important. So I thought he was pretty good. Again, I don't know how viable a whole style player is in center midfield. I thought this guy was pretty good, all things being considered. I generally like someone who's a little more defensive, and you'll see some reviews coming up for players like Box to Box, Destroyer, that I'll be releasing fairly shortly here. Those are more the guys I like to have in center midfield, but I also like to play attacking midfielders, potentially high wingers. So if you do bring the ball out of midfield and you are looking for whole players to burst through your central midfield line, then I think this is a really good guy that you should try out. He's pretty cheap and will give you that type of play style that you're looking for, with a little bonus that he's got that creative playmaker feel on the ball as well. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Give him a try. Let me know what you think. And let me know if you guys are using whole style players in your center midfield and finding success. I don't, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. I just haven't really been able to find success with them in my system. All right, thanks, guys. I'll be hitting you up soon with some more reviews. Peace out. Hey guys, I'm new to YouTube, so if you like the content, please give me a like. If you like the topics, please subscribe, and always leave a comment if you can. Thanks, guys.